Why is Antarctica unpopulated? That's not strictly true. Numerous nations maintain year-round presences on the continent. However, even those people are only temporary residents. The main impediment for the average Joe is the logistics and cost involved in getting supplies there. It is simply way too cost-prohibitive. You either need to fly everything in, including food and diesel fuel for your generators, or you need to charter an icebreaker to deliver by ship. In addition, the Antarctic Treaty forbids leaving any waste there, so all your waste must also be removed from the continent. It is also dark for several months over winter and light all summer. The continual darkness, accompanied by the extreme cold, creates a medical condition called seasonal affective disorder. Antarcticans call it getting toasty. It manifests as a severe form of cabin fever with depression, apathy, inability to concentrate, forgetfulness, a zoned-out type of weirdness. Some of the stories of toastiness would be hilarious if they weren't symptoms of something very wrong in a person's mind. For this reason, most Antarctic programs insist on psych evaluations for personnel wintering over, and there are mandatory maximum periods of time a person can remain on the continent. In short, no one would really want to live there unless they are there to do research or support the research. Although it's beautiful, the environment is not a particularly nice place to be for any length of time. There are a small number who live there permanently, and they are mainly concentrated in the townships of Esperanza and Villa Las Estrellas. There have been children born in these areas, the first being a boy in 1978 at Esperanza. Most of the international scientific bases have a small number of staff who overwinter in order to maintain the base during the long, harsh and extremely cold winter. So at any time there will be humans on Antarctica. However, before you get too excited and want to head off and join them, just remember that every single human that is down there is able to survive because they are supplied by ship or plane with provisions, and that only occurs between late October through to February each year. The rest of the time is spent simply surviving inside your accommodation. The day will come when Antarctica will be inhabited by large numbers of humans. Think in terms of living and surviving on Mars, and that concept will essentially be applied to being able not only to live there but also to provide food on a daily basis for the inhabitants. It won't happen in my lifetime, which is a blessing because I get to keep the wonderful memories of a pristine, magnificent and unspoiled continent. Antarctica isn't inhabited because the weather isn't nice. Crops can't grow, fishing boats wouldn't be able to reach the ocean due to ice much of the year, birds don't fly, sunbathers would literally freeze before they could get sunburned. Really bad weather. The Vikings found out that even calling a place Iceland discourages people from living there. Their next discovery was called Greenland. It has much nicer weather than Antarctica, but even so few people were able to live there. Well, it is an RXTRE environment. People who do stay there for any length of time, especially through the winter months, must endure extreme cold, and complete darkness for those winter months. People are at the South Pole year-round, but they have a station there built to house them. Food to TVWASB taught in before the last winter float came. WND went SND, even a place to grow plants such as fresh greens, under lights of course. So if USRE interested in finding IUT what esrally any Arctic explorers had to endure, read about the great explorer William Shackleton and how he and his men survived and returned home despite having their ship be crushed and sunk by shifting ice floes. The only place it might possibly be considered is the Palmer Peninsula, but even that looks infeasible. It is just too far south to get sunlight long enough to grow much of anything, even under glass, except just maybe some short-season veggies. It is terribly cold most of the year, with only a couple of months of halfway moderation during the brief summer. The only reasons there are any animals at all down there is because they are all supported by the productivity of the Antarctic waters. How do you make that work for livestock? The ice in the winter would make any sort of aquaculture impossible, so you are pretty much forced to seasonal fishing. That can just as well be done without anyone needing to actually live there year-round. Then there is the problem of providing energy for the habitation. There is plenty of wind, but I would imagine any wind tower would face huge icing problems. There are plenty of volcanoes, and thus probably some good geothermal potential. The engineering challenges of building such an infrastructure in such an environment would be daunting. It is one thing to build and staff a research station that is 100% supplied from outside. A permanent habitation makes no economic sense unless it can produce enough locally to supply most of its needs, and to produce something valuable to pay for the rest that it must import. I don't see any way how that could be made to happen anywhere in Antarctica.